And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, fair and only slightly unbalanced. And it's Thursday. Let's check in with our old friend Mike Papantonio, America's lawyer and host of Ring of Fire Radio, ringofireradio.com. Pap, how you doing?
Tom, how are you?
Well, we've got Comcast for our phones and our internet here right now, so our internet's down and most of our phones are down. Comcast, such a wonderful company, and I started out the show going off on how Tom Wheeler should, Barack Obama should call him up and say, okay, I know you're getting ready for a $3 million job with Comcast as soon as you leave. You're fired, and I'm going to put somebody in who's going to put net neutrality in. And pretty much about 20 minutes after I said that, Comcast took down our lines.
No kidding.
No kidding. I absolutely believe it's a coincidence.
Oh, okay.
But it is one of the more bizarre coincidences to happen this year.
A big one, yeah. Right. Yeah. Hey, just imagine Time Warner being mixed in there, huh?
Yeah. Well, see, I don't even have that option. I mean, we got nobody else comes into this building except Comcast.
That'll be a real home run.
Yeah. So anyhow. A lot going on. We had in the first hour of the program, I had Matthew Heimbach on. He's been on before. He's the founder of the White Student Union at Towson University. He's a white separatist, Sons of Confederate Veterans. And he said that what Bundy said and what Paul Ryan said are basically the same thing. And he's glad to hear it. But it's that But the problem is that when people like him or people like Bundy say it out loud and don't use the sophisticated language that Paul Ryan uses, they get kicked out of the Republican Party, which is what happened to Matthew.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the heart of the problem is they really don't believe in anything. I mean, if you want to drill down, anything meaningful, anything constructive. And what I mean by that, think about this just a second. These guys, they're absolutely delusional. If you take a look at what Bundy did with his group out there in Nevada, and you went person to person, you said, what is it that you believe? And you really say, let's have an honesty moment where you tell me what you really believe, and then let's drill down and see whether that seems to play out in your life. For example, what story that came in, I know you've seen it, where you had Frazier Glenn Miller, the man who mass murder, Kansas City Jewish Center. Now, we find out that he was caught having sex with an African-American male hooker in the back of his car. Now, this is a guy...
Really?
Oh, yeah.
How did I miss that one?
Oh, yeah. No. It's look at Gawker.
I guess they didn't report it on Fox News. Okay.
Okay, but here's the point. This is a guy who has devoted his life to the idea of keeping the African-American minority down. And then we find out that he's having sex with an African-American male hooker in the back of his car. Pretty ugly scene. The scene was so ugly, as a matter of fact, the sheriff, the police officer who caught him said, I really can't even describe it on scene. It was just so ugly and bizarre. Okay, now here's my point. If you go man to man, woman to woman in that crowd, and you really drill down to what is it that they believe, you're going to find out that they're delusional even about what they say they believe. And I think that's the difficulty. It's like trying to get a genie in a bottle when you talk to these people. It's all hate. It's driven by hate, Tom. I mean, you can dress it up any way you want. It's driven by self-doubt. If you did an MMPI and you took all of these people, I know quite a bit about this because we've had to do it in many years trying cases. We've had this done, focus groups and psychiatrists and psychologists analyze jurors. Now, if you take the profile of this character Bundy or this character Frazier Miller, and you put it on an outline. Here's what it's going to look like. They sat in the back of their class most of their lives. If most of the time they got out of ninth grade when they were 19 years old and quit school, they're underachievers, a woeful history most of the time of underachievement. I mean, you just go back and if you, time after time, I know this sounds like broad generalization, but it's not, Tom. They have focused the hell out of this. They know to a science what these people really look like. They're driven by their angst of their own failures.
Yeah.
They have never really exceeded at anything. And the reason I have to know that as a juror is as a lawyer picking a jury is I have to know what motivates these people. And so I don't know the fellow that you just interviewed. I don't know where the interview went or what you had to ask him. But if you really drill down, they're almost delusional about what it is they believe.
Yeah.
It's just a rejection of everything.
Yeah. Well, he's just, your basic white supremacist to separate the races, let white people have their own lives kind of thing. And it's, which is a particularly pernicious strain, frankly, in the United States. Because they can make themselves sound rational in a certain way.
Well, they joke themselves, they kid themselves, Tom, into being into making it believe that they're rational. Now, to me, the bigger story here is the way that all the fools have rushed in before they even understood the questions, much less the answers. These fools being the Rand Paul and Dean Heller, who's a senator. Sean Hannity, these people who've come to the aid of these lunatics that were out there in a cow pasture with AK-47s. And you can only conclude a couple things, Tom. You can only conclude that either Rand Paul and Dean Heller and Sean Hannity, who's the mouthpiece for the Republican Party, all these people are Republican or the mouthpiece for the Republican Party, either they were too stupid to immediately recognize how hate-driven and how dangerous this Bundy crowd is, or worse yet, their real uncamouflaged character is exactly the same as those racists, those white supremacists, those Bundy radicals that were willing to kill, willing to shoot innocent policemen in Nevada. And so either way, it's an ugly story for the Republicans because it's become their brand, Tom. This is their brand. Right. This is who they are, and all you got to do is go back and look at the people they've embraced. Ted Nugent called the president a subhuman mongrel, for God's sakes. Ann Coulter said she wishes that Timothy McVeigh had bombed all the people in the New York Times building. Rush Limbaugh, who's built his following ridiculing women, minorities, disabled children, and poverty, you name it. So this is the new brand of the Republican Party, and when you take a look at who it is they've attached themselves to, and then you say, okay, what is the character profile of these people? And you really, sometimes, Tom, you have a huge psychology background. You know what I'm saying is absolutely on point. They can figure out what the trends of character usually are. Yep. And they do it by analysis. Yep. They have huge analysis of these people, and this is who the Republican Party has embraced.
Yeah. I mean, this is Lee Atwater back in the 1980s saying, you start in 1954 by saying N-word, N-word, N-word. By 68, you can't say N-word. That hurts you. It backfires you. Say stuff like forced busing, states' rights. Now, he's talking about the 1980s. He says, now you talk about cutting taxes, and these things you're talking about are totally economic, but the byproduct is blacks get hurt worse than whites.
Right. It's all trigger words.
It's all dog whistle. It's all dog whistle. We got a minute left here, Pap. I know you wanted to get into the Tea Party Radio Network article that Politico had.
A remarkable story that is so underreported. My God, you've got Politico coming out and telling the truth about, Rush Limbaugh being paid $9 million, Hannity being paid $1.5 million, Glenn Beck being paid $6 million. What are they being paid for? Who are they being paid by? They're being paid by right-wing conservative organizations. And, Tom, they don't even ask a guy like Hannity to think about the issue. They write down on paper what Hannity must say, what he's going to be paid to say. They pay him $1.5 million, and they say, Sean Hannity, say these 10 things. And sure enough, when he appears on the air, he says those 10 things. That's not advertising, Tom. That is far from advertising. That is basically paid advocacy. And in the history of media, it's always been not only frowned upon, at one time it was illegal. Yeah, it's buying media. By the way, we've got your video back up. Comcast has, in its great mercy, turned our internet back on. So, Pap, always great having you with us. Thanks so much for the call. We'll be right back. It's 15 minutes past the hour.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Be sure to check out Mike Papantonio's website, ringofireradio.com, and listen to his program on the weekends all over the country. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Mike Papantonio. You're still here with us, aren't you, Pap?
I am, Tom.
Okay, cool. By the way, I just have to tell you, the guy who wrote that article, I'm forgetting his name, he called me up and interviewed me for the article because, he put a quote in there from me. And I thought I gave him the world's best soundbite. I actually thought about it before. He says, have any advocacy groups on the left ever paid you, directly or indirectly by an advertiser or anything like that, any of these billionaires, these very wealthy people, to say anything on the radio?
Start laughing?
And well, what I said was, no billionaire has ever called me up and said, I'd like to give you money to go on the air and suggest my taxes should be raised.
Tom, there's another side to this.
Yeah.
Think about this. The very fact that you don't have progressives supporting progressives the way that the lunatic conservative right supports their people. Now, like it or not, that's a problem with the progressive movement.
Yeah.
You've had this experience just as I have. When Air America was trying to stay alive, we went around to all these people who call themselves wonderful progressives. Yeah, we want to give money to help. And you go to some of these organizations, and just all you get is a blank stare. And what I concluded was that if it's not their idea, Tom, it's unimportant to a progressive. Now, I'm not suggesting progressives should be doing what should be giving us money to say what we want them to say, but they certainly should be supporting the infrastructure of progressive talk.
Yeah.
Because right now, when you got people like Randy Rhodes hanging up her show that she has with, things start getting kind of weird here when you have such a small club here.
Yeah, and we don't have much of a farm team either because there's no local radio anymore.
No, there's no farm team.
But anyhow, we're talking inside radio here. What's coming up on your not only do you do Ring of Fire radio, of course, which we were just talking about, but you do Ring of Fire TV right here on Free Speech TV every Sunday at noon at Eastern Time. What's going up this weekend?
Well, I've got author David Nywert. He's going to talk about the ramifications of the federal government stepping down in the Bundy Ranch disaster, PR disaster. Howard Nations, he's going to tell us how strong labor protections really have historically always created a better economy. There's no guesswork. It's empirical data. Linda Libson, she's going to explain how forced arbitration agreements are taking place with Facebook. Or what they're doing is they're sending you a coupon. Let's say Starbucks sends you a coupon. You take the coupon and you buy coffee with the coupon. You then are unwittingly agreeing to forced arbitration with Starbucks down the road for whatever ride.
This is shrink wrap terms of service on steroids.
Exactly. We're going to have David Bromwich. He's going to talk about President Obama, and it's such a disappointment for progressives. Why? Because he's not a president of conviction, according to Bromwich. He's a president of preferences, and it doesn't go beyond preferences.
I would agree with that analysis. I think that's a brilliant. I'd never thought of it in those terms, but it makes perfect sense.
Bromwich is a brilliant author, by the way, just a very good writer. Investigative journalist, author, Greg Pallas. You know him well. He's going to talk about the 4 years since the Deepwater Horizon catastrophe here on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, so you're going to have a heck of a show this Sunday. I'm looking forward to it.
I think so.
Sunday at noon Eastern Time. Of course, it replays every day here on Free Speech TV. And, go over to freespeech.org, check the listings, or go to ringofireradio.com and learn all about it. Pap, always great talking with you. Thanks for dropping by. Good seeing you. We'll be back.